Looks like we're streaming.
Live.
Hi. Hello, our Facebook
Hi.
page. We are so glad to be with you today. Leah and I are very jealous of Jen's background, which looks like she's actually outside. But
You wouldn't want to be outside here. It's like 0 degrees. You don't want to be outside.
No, I don't. Although I have got an excellent coat. But yeah, I'm glad to see you.
See you as well.
Oh, lovely. And we're glad to see Leah with her beautiful glow.
It's the ring light, obviously.
In interest of full disclosure.
You could just say thank you, Leah.
I could do that. You know, I've made such a big deal on social media about my ring light that
you have.
I know. You've got all of us wanting one now.
I know. Sharon's just got one apparently too. So
right, I'm going to have to upgrade my
relationship with the ring light people. You should be selling them.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to ring light, obviously contact Leah. So we are talking tonight about the juggle that we all face, the juggle that when we struggle with the juggle, it's as if we're being pulled in a million different directions. We're exhausted, we're resentful of our work in meeting everybody else's needs around us, which Leah and I dug deeply into on Friday. And that video is now on our YouTube channel, on the Beyond School YouTube channel, which we strongly urge you to go and subscribe to, because there is some great stuff up there. And I think it's also available on the Facebook page. Is that right, Leah?
It should be, yes.
Okay. So we talked on Friday about shifting our mindset to putting ourselves first, to meeting our own needs first, above everything else, and how that isn't in any way, on any level, selfish, but it is going against the programming, the modeling that a lot of us received or were subject to when we were little kids. So tonight we're going to be talking about the modeling and the messaging that we offer out to the world from our place of our own self-awareness. And we're inviting you to become really conscious of that, so that what you're modeling invites great treatment from others of you, and also shows your family how you are choosing to be the change you want to see in the world. So,
and that's the second mindset shift. So we're talking about the kind of the 3 key ones. On Friday we talked about the first one, which I know is often one of the most challenging. Yeah. And this one, I think, kind of helps with that one, because if you struggle to put yourself first and you struggle to think it's okay to do that, then this mindset shift kind of helps with that, because then you can ask yourself and go, well, if I don't do that, what model am I being to my kids? What model am I being to the people around me in my own relationships? What am I modeling to other people? What am I saying about myself, and putting that out into the world about how I want and expect to be treated by other people? And if I won't put myself first, and I can't treat myself kindly and with respect and with love, how on earth can I go out into the world and expect other people to do that to me and for me and with me too?
A lot of
Leah, that was...
Sorry, Jen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's a little lag between parents' house.
There is a time lag. Jen is in beautiful Canada, and so, yeah. I don't know which one is lagging. I just wanted to say, and then I will shut up and let you speak, that a lot of the messages that I've become consciously aware of are things like people like us don't, or people like us must. And I don't think anyone ever stood over me and said that stuff, but I picked it up, I intuited it, I took it on because it was modeled to me. So this is such an important thing to tune into and become consciously aware of. Jen.
And the thing I was going to say was, when I was kind of getting through this layer of stuff for myself and learning to put myself first because it was a benefit to everyone else. One of the things questions that I asked myself a lot was, well, what do I want for my daughter when she is my age? What do I want for my sons when they are adult people? How do I want them to exist in the world? Do I want them to feel this same like heavy obligation to things that are ridiculous and unattainable, most of them? And, the answer to that, of course, was a resounding no, I don't. I want them to be free people. And so the only way to break that, that cultural programming that we have is to choose actively to do so. And even when I couldn't bring myself to do it, for me, I could absolutely say, ah, yes, well, I want my kids to have better than this, so therefore I must also model it.
And that's often the kind of a way in, when you still can't do it for you and put yourself first and go, actually, I am doing this for me. The way in and the kind of first step is to go, well, okay, fine, I'll do it for them. I'll do it for someone else. And then in the course of time, you realize that actually what you are modeling to them and what they see and what they copy, because, you know, kids, they don't listen to what we say, they do what we do, and they watch and they learn and they copy us.
They do.
And, you know, and it doesn't matter what we say, they basically internalize the stuff that we do. And when they see us doing that, it's permission for them to do the same. And, you know, and it's just as important. You know, Jen, you raised a really important point about kind of your daughter, but your sons too, because you know, I've got 3 girls and a boy, but it is just as, I think, if not more important, for the boys to see, for the boy to see the girls and the women doing that for themselves, because they then don't grow up internalizing that actually the women and the girls around me should be putting themselves last and should be putting themselves first. And when I grow up as a man, that's going to be my expectation, and that's what I'm going to go out and kind of put that expectation and that burden onto the women and the girls in my life. And, you know, that just perpetuates the cultural and the societal conditioning.
When
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just going to say, Lucy, I'm sorry about that lag. I had an interaction with one of my sons this week, which is an excellent example of this. And, you know, we were having a text chat and he was frustrated over something related to COVID that's out of everyone's control. But he's really upset about it. And he said to me, I'm going to stop talking about this right now because I need to go process, and I need, you know, I don't want to say anything that would damage a relationship. So I will let you know when I'm ready to continue the conversation. And I thought, oh, wow, like for this particular son of mine, that he can draw that boundary for himself, that he can articulate his emotional state and his need to process, that he understands that he needs to process. Like all of these things were things that Tony and I really consciously tried to model out loud for our kids as they grew up, because they weren't always modeled super well for us when we were kids. Yeah. And, you know, being able to do those things for ourselves so that our kids will do them differently. And now with adult kids, to see that bearing itself out, I appreciate so much the work that went in up front. You know, it's really worth doing.
And I don't think, you know, I'm hoping I don't have to wait till adulthood to see it, because I can already see it, you know.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
And you can see it in kids. You know, you model something and then you see them the next day doing it, and they are such fast learners that you know, it's about being really, you know, acutely conscious of what you are modeling and what the way that you are walking in the world and the way that you are behaving, because they will see it and then the next day they will do it. And it's, you know, that's how they learn. They look through watching and observing, and then they go and kind of copy and play, and you see it in their interactions. And it's, you know, and it can be that quick. And if it's that quick, then surely we want to and need to be super conscious of what we're doing on a daily basis, you know, what we're modeling to them.
So Lucy, like, I know you've got a lot of experience in counseling people and working with people through these kinds of things. What are some of the concrete shifts that people need to make in this space in order to not just move their thought process, but also their experience as they figure out, well, what does modeling this look like?
That's a great question. Thank you. And I think that raising our self-awareness is everything. In transactional analysis, we talk about concept autonomy, which is awareness, spontaneity, and intimacy. And those 3 components form our ability to step out of our social conditioning, out of our narrative, out of our script, out of the way we think we should be or ought to be or must be, because that's the way it is. So it takes us from that unconscious copying, following, autopilot, mindlessness, feelinglessness, into intentionality and purpose-driven thinking, feeling, and being, which is where we all need to be if we're going to model the way that we want to be treated, invite the things into our lives that we know we deserve and want, and to form relationships that are based on truth and intimacy. Because otherwise, while we're going through life shut down in terms of our thinking or our feeling, and acting from a place of assumption or learned or modeled ways of being, then we're not truly alive. We're not truly here and now. Yeah,
we're not aware of it.
The lights are on, but there's nobody home.
We're just following a path that's been modeled. We're not stepping out of. When you were saying it, it sounds like it's almost being able to step out of ourselves sometimes, to be able to watch ourselves. And the thing that I often try and think for myself is, there is always a pause between something happening, a trigger, and then my response and my reaction. And sometimes I am really bad at it, and if something gets triggered, I will just light up like that, like a flame. But the goal is always there's a pause, and it's like, it's knowing that there is a pause, and that within that pause is a conscious choice, and the ability to make a conscious choice how you behave and what path almost, and what pattern and what behavior you choose. And that is, I talk a lot with my kids about that, is that, that's the key. It's that there is a pause. It's not just this and then this. There's this, a pause, and then this. And that's, to me, that is one of the most important things to model. And, as I said, I can be utterly rubbish at it at times.
Me too.
But the goal is there.
And the goal, I guess, in that, thank you for that, Leah, because that's fantastic. The goal for us all is to lengthen that pause so that we can become more intentional and purposeful about all the stuff. I remember learning this a few years ago when I did a transactional analysis course specifically around problematic eating. And a big part of that course was about lengthening the pause between the urge to go and eat something and doing it, so that we give ourselves a space for choice and a space for being intentional about where we go next, what we do next. It's really, really good idea.
So,
An amazing thing to
I'm listening to this. And I hear you guys, and I think, yeah, I'm there in my brain space too. That's what I want. That's what I'm working on. That's what I try to do. What about the person who is watching this and they're like, well, what do you mean becoming intentional? They're not even aware necessarily that they are in patterns. Life just is what it is. And they think that they're probably conscious of it already. Like, what were the things for you guys that caused the light to come on and to go, oh, well, actually, maybe I'm just acting out of patterns here, and beginning to recognize what those patterns were, and then analyzing whether or not you wanted to change all of them. Because not everything we need to change, right? Some of the messages we've gotten from our families are good, and we want to preserve those. But the point is being conscious enough to decide, right? So how does somebody even start to think that through?
Shall I go?
Yes.
For me, my personal experience, well, I think there were kind of
two. I've got an answer for this as well.
One is therapy, but one is having somebody point it out to me and point out the patterns and be able to see the patterns in a way that I just couldn't see the patterns. If you don't have someone who can do that, who is aware enough to do that, and you can sometimes just, it's like, it is kind of pulling up a level, but it's some of the clues that you will see in your life will be things like you get into repeating arguments all the time. So it's the same argument that goes on repeat with your partner, or, or your child, or whatever it is. And you get into some of the same cycles and the same patterns, and you both take the same positions. And it's almost like you're having the same conversation and the same argument over and over and over again. And that to me is one of the biggest clues. If you find yourself in that, then it means that you are both, whoever it is, are both rooted in a particular pattern or a particular mindset or a particular path, and you will not move, and neither of you will move. And it's obviously you're creating a dynamic, but there's your part in that, and that's the bit that you can start to explore and go, well, what is my part in this, and what are my beliefs, and where are they coming from, and where am I behaving from, and what kind of assumptions am I making? And that to me is a really solid practical clue that there's stuff of yours that might be in this, which is that, the repeating arguments, the repeating niggles, the things that you constantly get annoyed by, or the things that, someone else does and you are annoyed by it, or you do something and they are annoyed by it.
God,
yeah, I had it with
so annoying.
My kids taught me this so much. I have this clear memory of this one older mentor mom who saw me in that pattern with one of my kids, and she had seen me 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and she finally said to me, "Are you still dealing with that child?" Like, "Yes, I am. I can't get him to move." And she said to me, "Well, it's your fault." I was like, "Excuse me? I'm not the one acting this way. This is not my fault." She says, "Yeah, until you learn to transfer that frustration to the child, there's no chance he's going to change. Why would he? You meet him there every time." And I was like, "Oh, ouch." Time to model something else. So.
That's interesting as well, because we talked about this possibly last time or the time before, is the difference between fault and responsibility. And while that some of that may have been your fault, some may also have been his fault too, but you as the adult and the parent, it is often, it falls to us, it's our responsibility to change that and to step out of that pattern and model it to them that it can be done and how to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to bring in a more kind of meta perspective to this as well, because I think it's really important. Leah, I love what you said, and I love Jen's example about repeating patterns within our interpersonal stuff, you know, between us and other people. But I want to go further away from our life and look down from a bigger distance and look at repeating patterns generally. So is it that you always get into relationships and the person you're in a relationship treats you badly, or doesn't remember your birthday, or does nobody ever remember that, you know, your middle name, or does nobody ever
that's another clue, the languaging that you've just
yes
said.
exactly,
it's the never.
Everybody always does this to me, nobody ever notices this about me, or I always end up alone. Or so if you've got anything that you can think of that's an always, a never, and all of those things, those big meta things, what themes are running through your life, and what does that help you to repeat over and over again? I speak to people all the time who are in bad relationships where their partners always dismiss their needs, or don't account their emotions, or don't care about this, that, and the other, or people who always get a job and then lose a job, or people who always, you know, fall over repeatedly in the street. I see these repeating patterns a lot, and this is a massive clue. So this is something that you're unconscious of that is running the show, that if you can bring that into awareness, it will stop running the show, because that's a place that you can get more intentional. I have a great exercise for this, actually. It's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. And look around you and notice, name, and become aware of 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And by the time you've gone through that exercise, you'll be present with yourself, you'll be here and now, and that is the point where you can make an intentional choice.
Lucy, that's a really useful tool. Can you please repeat that? Because I'd like to write it down.
Yeah, I tell you what I can do. An amazing illustrator once drew it for me using a hand and naming the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 things. I can post that under this video so that everybody can.
That would be super helpful, because that feels to me like, you know, going back to the pause that Leah was talking about with our kids and lengthening that pause and modeling this, like that feels like what we should all be doing in that pause.
It's like a grounding. It's like, you know, when you're up in the air, you've flown up into the air because you're lit up by something. It's a kind of, how do you ground yourself and get yourself back into, you know, into a grounded space where you can actually be consciously intentional about how you behave, as opposed to just going straight off down a path that is very familiar to you.
And some people,
I love that.
Just breathing, becoming conscious of your breathing will allow you to gently over time elongate that pause. And that's the name of the game here, to make that pause so long that you can think, oh, I have a choice. What do I want to do here? Rather than just like, wah.
There's also a kind of gender thing in this. I think it's is it John Gottman? If you look at the Gottman Institute, and they are the kind of the godparents of relationships, and they have talked a lot about they talk about the 4 horsemen of apocalypse of relationships, and the kind of 4 behaviors that can be really detrimental to relationships. And they also talk about the differences in the way that men and women often deal with conflict and deal with behavior, and that typically the way that people interact, the way that men and women interact, just kind of is almost in the worst ways. And I think this is what you talked about with your son, Jen, is, and I find that I need to do this, is one of the things that I need to do is take a time out. I need to take a breather, and I need to go away and walk away, because if I stay in it, it will just become even more explosive. But at the same time, the kind of the woman, or the more female energy, tends to need something different, and the 2 interacting explode because neither is getting their needs met. And it's about how you consciously communicate what those needs are. So, you know, frequently need to get better at saying, I just need a timeout. That doesn't mean I'm, running away. I just need some time, and to take myself away, go and breathe and center myself and ground myself. And then I can come back and have a more intentional conversation than literally just reacting from the place of anger or whatever it is.
That's the difference between reacting and responding, isn't it? And that's all about being intentional and being in the moment and being aware of yourself in the moment. So I'd always encourage you to dig into, how am I thinking here and now? How am I feeling in the here and now? And what do I choose to do from a place of awareness and intimacy with my own process in the here and now?
And we're kind of, it feels like we're talking a little bit around the juggle stuff, but this is so important, because this is, this is the key to your relationships with your kids. And when you're juggling things and you're under pressure and you're under stress and everything's, it feels like you're going to drop something and it's all going to come falling down around your ears. It's how you behave and respond to some of those difficult moments, or whether that is conflict, or whether, you've got a child in your ear and you're trying to get some work done, or whatever it is. It's that conscious choice of, I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to sit for a moment and make a conscious choice about how I respond. And that's going to be intentional, and it's going to model what I would like my kids to do too.
And this is so based on the building block that we started on Friday, isn't it? Because we have to be intimate with ourselves. We have to know ourselves and be aware of our inner workings and our processes and the messages that we're carrying, that we picked up from others in our lives, from the way things are, just the way it is. And then we build onto that into becoming more intentional.
And our needs, because I think that's the thing that is, if we're not aware of what we need and how we need to respond, and how we get to meet our needs in order that we can respond in a conscious way, we have no chance in doing it.
No, because when your needs are not being met, that pause is non-existent. You just want to murder everyone.
Yeah.
In a kind way.
Is there a kind way?
I'm going to murder you, but really nicely.
Style.
Well, I've been known over the years of parenting to say, I love you, but right now I want to kill you. I need you to. Yeah.
But in that, you've just, you have stated your need. I need you to. I think women find that so hard to do that, even with their kids. I need you to do this, or I need you to give me 5 minutes, or, and it's that goes back to the first mindset shift, which is it is okay for us to have needs, and for us to express those needs and to hold those boundaries, and to be really, intentional about that and aware of those things.
I think it's more than okay. I think it's absolutely vital, because if you're not doing that, what you're teaching your kids is that when they become parents, they cease to matter. And that's not okay for anyone. Like, we don't want our grandchildren parented that way. Therefore, we may not parent these kids that way. It's a multi-generational thing, and you choose either to perpetuate negative cycles, or you choose to set them right.
And it's hard that the generational patterns, it's hard to break them. There's a graphic that I keep reposting every year because it comes up in my memories, which is the kind of the matches, and I'll have to repost again under this. And it's, there's a row of burnt matches, and then there's basically one match which is down, and the rest of the matches are whole and intact. And it's that one person in a generation who can choose to stop those patterns, and who can choose to do things differently and model things differently, and that then has a massive knock-on effect for every generation afterwards.
And
it's worth doing the work.
It is worth doing the work, and we've each done the work, and we are here to help you to do the work. And we mentioned earlier that we are running a boot camp called Beyond the Juggle, and it's on the 12th and 13th of December. And we want to invite you to join us to that if you're interested in doing this work with yourself. If you are feeling ready and able and willing to invest in yourself and do this work so that you can become more in touch with your own importance and able to break generational patterns, and that you're ready and willing to become more consciously aware of your process, so that you can step out of the juggle and step into intentional, purposeful integration.
Well said, Lucy.
Oh, thank you.
And if you don't like to watch video, like I really don't like to watch video, we have an email series which goes through the 3 mindset shifts that we're talking about too. So you can sign up to those. We can put the link underneath that, and you can read about them instead of having to watch them.
And even if you do like watching videos and also would like to read these, the email series says stuff that can't possibly be contained in these videos because we're coming off the cuff here. So yeah, sign up to the video, sign up to the emails.
Email.
The links in the comments beneath this video. Okay. So thank you for joining us. And we'll be with you on Friday at the same time, I think, 6:30 till 7. Is that right?
It may be 6, I'm not sure, but it might make sense to keep doing it at the same time every.
Yeah, I think we should do them at the same time.
Okay,
It helps
so
everyone.
be with you at 6:30 live here on our Facebook group, and we'll look forward to being with you then.